Hi everybody, welcome to the 2022 sampler. Thanks for coming back. Before we get started, I just wanted to talk about a few things, and that is to cut accurately, use your ruler whenever you're cutting things. And then the second thing is the kind of thread you're going to use. So I like to use Orifil thread, and you can get it in different colors. I tend to like the neutral colors. And you can also use Mettler thread. This is a regular Mettler thread in a beige color, but you could also use gray. It kind of goes with everything. We even sell it in the big spools if you want something really big. Okay, so I'm going to set those aside. I happen to have a gray in the machine. So when you start sewing, always check your seam allowance. Make sure it really is a 1/4 inch seam. Just check. Take a scrap of fabric, sew it, measure it, see if it's a 1/4 inch. And once it's good, then you should be good too. Okay. All right. Oh, I was also going to mention needles. I like to use, when I'm piecing, just good universal needles. I like a size 80. They work for me. These are the chrome. These are great. These are my favorite. So I piece with universal needles, size 80. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sew these two fabrics together. So I'm going to put them right sides together. And if it's a batik and you can't tell the difference, then it doesn't matter. So I'm just going to line up the raw edges, and I'm going to sew it with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, so I've sewn it, 1/4 inch, and now I'm going to press it. And when I press, I like to press it flat at first. So I just like to press it flat to kind of set the seam. And then once it's flat, then I will press it towards the darker fabric. Whatever happens to be darker, that's the way I like to press it. So I kind of give it a little bit of help first, and then I just press it to one side towards the darker fabric. This iron was cold, so it's trying to get it to warm up. Okay, so this is what it looks like from the front, and this is what it looks like from the back. It should be nice and clean. You shouldn't have any folds in your ironed in your fabric. Like if this is like this, you want it to be opened up all the way so it truly measures what it should measure. Okay, so now I'm going to cut these into 2.5 inch segments. First thing I'm going to do is straighten up one end. Let me just use this one at first. So the way I like to do it, if I'm straightening up one end, is I put this on my ruler, and then I find a line on my ruler that is the same as my seam line. So I just line up the seam line with a line on the ruler, and then I cut off this edge to get it nice and straight. Okay, so I'm lining up that seam line. Okay, so nice straight edge. Okay, and now I'm going to cut these into 2.5 inch segments, and this ruler happens to be 2.5 inches wide, so I'm just going to do that. Use the width of this ruler and cut 1, 2, 3, and the last one. and you're going to have a little bit left. So these are my 4 2.5-inch segments. Now I'm going to take this and I'm going to sew, make sure I got that right. I'm going to sew this piece, this rectangle onto the side so it looks like this, and I'm going to do that 4 times. Okay? So I want to make sure I match up the end here, and I want the end to match on the opposite side, and then I'm going to sew these. Okay, so I'm going to do this 4 times. Okay, so I've sewn these together and I'm going to cut them apart. And then I'm going to press. And I'm going to press it towards this plain rectangle because it's going to lay a lot flatter. Okay, so I'm going to press it to that one side, the rectangular side. One more. Okay, so now I'm actually ready to start assembling the rows together. So we're going to do this one twice. So I'm going to set this over here. Okay, so I have a plain square in the middle, and then I have my fabric C's out in the corners. So I'm going to make that twice. I'm going to make 2 of those. So I'm going to leave that up there while I sew the other one. Okay, I'm going to iron this and then I'm going to sew the other one. So let me iron it first. And I'm going to iron this towards that plain square in the middle, that darker blue square. I'm going do the same thing with this one. Sew this together. Again, I want to press it towards that middle square. And then I'm going to take a big rectangle, and that's going to be in the middle. So let me sew it to this piece first. And when I sew it, I want my ends to meet. So I can either pin it or I hold it here, but I definitely want my opposite end to line up. I want that to meet. So hold it or pin it. So what I tend to do is I sew just a little bit. If you don't want to pin it, this is what you can do. So I started that, and then I'm going to take this end right here and I'm just going to hold it in my fingers and make sure that one piece doesn't end up longer than the other. I don't know if you can see it, but this is the end that I finished with, and you can see that these two ends, these two strips of fabric end at the same place. One of them isn't longer than the other. So I'm going to iron it towards that blue piece in the center. Okay, and then I am going to add this on the opposite side. And again, you can pin it or just hold the ends, the opposite ends. I'm holding it. Iron this, and I'm again going to press it towards that blue center. Okay. And that's our block. All right, thanks for watching.